Today, let's talk about a crucial element that can help us heal the wounds of our loved ones, bringing relief not as a burden or annoyance, but as a source of strength. The material we're focusing on is mindfulness. Mindfulness is essentially the art of truly being present. It's not just about showing up physically, but about being mentally and emotionally engaged in the moment. When we practice mindfulness, we are aware of everything around us, but we also check in with what's going on within us. It's about being fully present with our thoughts, emotions, and reactions. One of the most important things in mindfulness is to observe with a pure heart. That means not reacting, not judging, and not adding personal likes or dislikes. It's about not suppressing or imagining things, and most importantly, not becoming one with the experience we're observing. It's a bit tricky, but with practice, we can get there. If we can't master it completely, we can at least start with being fully present. For instance, when we listen to someone we care about, especially someone who is suffering, like a loved one experiencing depression, mindfulness helps us listen deeply. We focus intently on their words. We pay attention to the emotions behind those words, and we observe the deeper messages being conveyed. But at the same time, we remember to check in with ourselves. How do we feel as we listen? Are we relaxed? Are we really ready to listen? Mindfulness doesn't just stop at listening. It helps us stay grounded, even when the energy in the room becomes heavy. If, during the conversation, we start to feel overwhelmed or start judging, mindfulness allows us to pause and reflect. We can gently let the other person know that we need a break and that we'll return to listen when we feel ready. We can take a moment to breathe, to reset our energy, and come back when we feel centered again. When we're helping someone who is emotionally wounded or dealing with depression, it's important to understand that healing doesn't come from us directly. It's something they must do within themselves. We can guide and support, but the healing process happens inside them. Serotonin and the calming effects of love, relaxation, and peace all lie within their minds. Our role is to help them reconnect with that inner peace, to help them trust that healing is possible. Unfortunately, many people who try to help those suffering from emotional pain may unintentionally create dependency. They may want the person to lean on them, to see them as the sole source of comfort. But the truth is, we cannot be that constant pillar. Our energy has its limits, and if someone depends solely on us, they forget to rely on themselves. Healing is a long process, and we can only contribute part of it. Therapists, professionals, and loved ones alike must understand that we are not the sole solution to someone else's healing. No one person can fix another's wounds entirely. That's why when we help others, we must not feel pressured to be the only support they rely on. If someone is unwilling to work with us, we shouldn't take it personally or feel discouraged. Their progress is ultimately up to them. Part of supporting someone through depression means recognizing that they might push us away. Depression is a beast, and if we try to engage too deeply, or if we touch a raw nerve without the proper protection, we might get hurt. Sometimes those with depression can unintentionally hurt us as they lash out or withdraw, and if we aren't careful, their negative energy can affect us too. Therefore, we must protect ourselves emotionally. We can only help someone else if we first have the ability to maintain our own peace. If we don't protect our own energy, we risk absorbing their negative emotions, and in the worst case, we might end up feeling depressed ourselves. This is why practicing mindfulness is so important. When we are mindful, we can check in with ourselves, stay grounded, and avoid being swept away by someone else's pain. To be able to guide someone through emotional turbulence, we must maintain our emotional equilibrium. If we can't protect our own energy, we won't be able to help them effectively. Mindfulness provides us with that shield. It allows us to stay aware of our own emotions, check in with ourselves, and make sure we aren't taking on too much of the other person's energy. When we approach someone who is suffering, mindfulness teaches us that their negative emotions are only a small part of who they are. It's not their whole being. The anger, frustration, sadness, and despair they feel are temporary states. They're like clouds that will eventually pass. If we focus only on these feelings, we risk losing sight of the person's true self, the person who is capable of healing, of joy, of peace. To truly help someone in pain, we need to see beyond their current emotional state. We need to recognize that the anger, the hurt, the negativity they're experiencing is not permanent. It doesn't define who they are. With mindfulness, we can see through these emotions to their core, recognizing that they are still the same person we've always known. When we do this, we can offer support with compassion, without becoming overwhelmed or losing ourselves in their emotions. Mindfulness helps us maintain a balanced perspective. It allows us to see through the temporary emotional pain and remind ourselves, and the person we're helping, that they are more than what they're feeling in the moment. This awareness can guide us as we help them navigate their emotional landscape. When we engage with someone in emotional distress, particularly with depression, it's crucial that we approach them with patience and understanding. Depression is not something that can be fixed overnight, and it's important to realize that healing is a gradual process. As we support them, we need to avoid placing the entire burden of their recovery on ourselves. In fact, one of the most critical things we can do is teach them to trust in their own ability to heal. The key here is to offer guidance without creating dependency. Many people, in their desire to help, may unwittingly make the person with depression feel as though they can't recover without them. This can be damaging because it reinforces the notion that healing depends solely on external support rather than the inner strength of the individual. This is where mindfulness comes into play again. When we practice mindfulness, we are aware of our actions and intentions. We don't get caught up in the need to be the savior or the sole source of comfort for someone else. Instead, we recognize that we are part of the healing journey, but not the whole journey. Healing, in essence, is a process that the person must undertake themselves. Our job is to help them connect with their own healing abilities, not to fix them. An important aspect of this is knowing when to step back. Sometimes, as much as we want to help, we must realize that we cannot push someone to heal faster than they're ready. Depression often comes with a fear of healing, as it can be overwhelming to confront the wounds that have been hidden for so long. If we push too hard, we risk causing them to retreat further into themselves. Instead, we offer them space and time. We create an environment where they feel safe to process their emotions at their own pace. We let them know that we're here for them, but we don't force them into any particular healing timeline. We don't demand that they get better quickly, and we avoid making them feel as though they're a burden to us. As we hold space for someone going through depression, it's crucial that we continue to practice mindfulness ourselves. It's easy to become overwhelmed by someone else's pain, and that's when mindfulness becomes our shield. It allows us to stay grounded and not absorb the negative energy that surrounds us. We must remain connected to our own peace, even as we empathize with their suffering. This is why mindfulness is so important in the helping process. Without it, we risk becoming entangled in the emotions of the person we're trying to help, which can lead to burnout. Mindfulness helps us maintain our own emotional balance, which in turn allows us to be of service to others without depleting ourselves. But mindfulness doesn't only help us maintain our own well-being, it also helps us see the person's suffering in a new light. Instead of focusing solely on their negative emotions or symptoms, we can see their pain as part of their human experience, rather than defining them. We understand that the anger, sadness, and hopelessness they're experiencing are just temporary states, and we know that they have the capacity for healing and transformation. As we approach someone who is struggling with depression, we need to remind ourselves that their emotional pain is not the entirety of who they are. There is more to them than just their suffering. We need to hold space for the possibility of growth and change, even if we can't see it right away. This mindset shift allows us to approach the situation with more compassion, patience, and hope. In many ways, the practice of mindfulness is about remembering that we are all capable of change. No one is defined by their pain. Mindfulness allows us to see beyond the immediate suffering and into the potential for healing that exists within each of us. When we help others, it's important to remember that they are not their pain. They are individuals who are experiencing pain. This subtle shift in perspective can make a world of difference in how we approach helping others. Another vital element in helping someone with depression is maintaining a balance between empathy and detachment. Empathy allows us to connect with the person, to truly understand what they're going through. However, detachment ensures that we don't lose ourselves in their pain. It's a delicate balance, but one that can be maintained through mindfulness. Empathy without detachment can lead to us becoming overwhelmed by the suffering of others. We may take on their emotional burden, which not only harms us, but also limits our ability to help them. On the other hand, detachment without empathy can come off as cold or dismissive. To be truly effective in supporting someone with depression, we need to walk the fine line between understanding their pain and maintaining our own emotional boundaries. When we practice mindfulness, we become more aware of when we are crossing that line. We can check in with ourselves to see if we're becoming too emotionally involved or if we're pulling away too much. Mindfulness helps us maintain that perfect balance between being present for someone without losing our sense of self. The goal, ultimately, is to be a source of support and strength, not a source of depletion. Mindfulness teaches us to care for others without draining ourselves. It helps us offer our support with love and understanding, knowing that we are not the ones doing the healing. We are simply providing the space for healing to occur. The person with depression has the power to heal, but they need to be able to access that power. Our role is to help them reconnect with it. It's also important to remember that healing is not linear. There will be ups and downs along the way, and we must be prepared for that. There may be times when the person we're helping seems to be making progress, only to take a step backward. This is normal, and it doesn't mean that they're failing or that we're failing in our role. It simply means that healing is a process, and it takes time. Mindfulness teaches us to be patient with that process. It reminds us that each step, even the setbacks, are part of the journey. We don't need to rush the healing process. By practicing mindfulness, we can stay calm and steady, offering support without pushing for results. This patience is one of the greatest gifts we can give to someone who is struggling. As we continue to support someone through their emotional struggles, particularly depression, one of the key principles we need to remember is that healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a long journey that requires patience, understanding, and consistent care. This journey, though challenging, is full of opportunities for growth, both for the person who is suffering and for us as the ones supporting them. Mindfulness is essential throughout this journey because it helps us stay grounded and centered. It helps us focus on the present moment, which is the only place where healing can truly happen. In our efforts to help others, we may sometimes get caught up in trying to solve their problems or rushing to get them better. But mindfulness teaches us that healing takes time, and it's not something we can force. It's something that unfolds naturally, at its own pace. This understanding allows us to let go of any expectations or pressures we might put on ourselves or the person we're helping. We no longer have to feel responsible for fixing them. We don't have to worry about their progress or results. Instead, we simply focus on being present, offering our support without attachment to a specific outcome. This shift in mindset brings peace to both ourselves and the person we're supporting. Mindfulness also encourages us to approach every situation with compassion. When we're helping someone who is in pain, it's easy to feel sorry for them or pity them. However, mindfulness invites us to move beyond sympathy. Instead of seeing the person as a victim of their circumstances, mindfulness helps us see them as a fellow human being who is simply navigating a difficult path. This shift allows us to offer support from a place of respect rather than from a position of superiority or judgment. Furthermore, mindfulness teaches us the importance of non-attachment. We should not attach ourselves too deeply to someone else's emotional state, because doing so can lead to burnout. We can help someone without becoming enmeshed in their problems. This doesn't mean we care less about them. It means we care about them enough to give them the space they need to heal on their own. In practice, this non-attachment looks like recognizing that we are not responsible for the other person's happiness. It means understanding that we can offer them our love and support, but ultimately, they are the ones who must take the steps toward healing. When we release ourselves from the burden of their healing, we make room for them to take responsibility for their own well-being. One of the most powerful tools mindfulness gives us is the ability to create healthy emotional boundaries. As we engage with someone who is suffering, we must be mindful of our own emotional needs and limitations. If we are feeling drained or overwhelmed, mindfulness allows us to recognize this and take steps to replenish ourselves. We can step away for a moment, take a break, and practice self-care. By setting these boundaries, we protect our own well-being and ensure that we can continue to be of service to others without depleting ourselves. Mindfulness teaches us that we are not selfish for taking care of ourselves. It's actually necessary if we want to be able to help others in the long run. We cannot pour from an empty cup, and mindfulness helps us remember this truth. This practice of self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. When we take the time to rest and recharge, we are better equipped to support others. Just as we can't give water from an empty well, we cannot give our energy and compassion to others if we haven't nurtured ourselves first. Mindfulness encourages us to take care of our own mental and emotional health so that we can be fully present for those who need us. In addition to self-care, mindfulness also emphasizes the importance of reflection. When we work with someone who is struggling with depression, we are constantly exposed to their emotional states. While it's important to offer empathy, it's equally important to take time to reflect on how these interactions affect us. Are we feeling drained? Are we taking on their pain too much? How can we protect our own emotional state while still offering compassion? These reflective practices help us maintain emotional balance and prevent burnout. They remind us that our emotional well-being is just as important as the person we are helping. We need to continually check in with ourselves to ensure that we are not sacrificing our health for the sake of others. Reflection allows us to learn from each interaction and improve our approach to helping others in the future. Finally, mindfulness teaches us the importance of seeing the person as a whole. When we encounter someone in pain, it's easy to focus only on their suffering. But mindfulness reminds us to look beyond the immediate pain and to see the person as a whole being. We acknowledge that their emotions, while valid, do not define them. They are more than their depression, more than their sadness or anger. This holistic view of the person helps us approach them with greater compassion. It allows us to see their strengths, their potential for healing, and their capacity for growth. By holding this view, We help them see themselves not as broken, but as capable of healing and transformation. This perspective gives them hope and encourages them to believe in their own ability to recover. In conclusion, supporting someone with emotional pain, especially depression, is a delicate and challenging process. It requires patience, mindfulness, and a deep understanding of both ourselves and the person we are helping. With mindfulness, we can offer support without becoming overwhelmed by the emotions of others. We can help others heal without taking on their pain. Most importantly, we can guide them towards self-healing, empowering them to trust in their own inner strength. Healing is a journey, and we are simply companions along the way. Through mindfulness, we can be present for our loved ones, provide them with the space they need to heal, and help them reconnect with their inner peace. As we practice mindfulness in our own lives, we create a ripple effect of calm, love, and healing that touches everyone around us. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope these reflections will help you navigate your own path of supporting others with love, compassion, and mindfulness.